My Yellow Brick Road to My Happily Ever After by Carolyn Evans. That's me. We're reading chapter 8. Well, I'm reading it and you're going to listen or watch me read chapter 8. The other chapters are so exciting, so don't just jump in on 8. Go to my website, carolevansdreammaker.com, and find those other chapters and get to this chapter, okay? So, chapter 8, the beginning of my happily ever after. The strongest stones for building my path with the most resilience are stones of faith, obedience, and forgiveness. I learned that I needed God first in my life, which enabled me to stop searching for the right man to share my life. It took a lot of faith in God to do what was needed. Stop trying to control the search. That was difficult, but once I committed to it, it was so easy. And just live, do everything else, work, school, hang out with people, talk to people, but whatever. I just did not focus on trying to find a guy. Once I truly believed that God would bring the man to whom he would match my personality and love me unconditionally, it was easier to be obedient. I put God first. It's so important. God should go up here first, and then your mate or boyfriend, husband, your family, mother, father, sister, brothers, cousins, co-workers, everybody else should fall under God. But if you put anybody over God who thinks they have the power to help you in your life, to control your life, to help you, that's not going to work. It'll all fall down. So God first, and then he helps you with all the other relationships, which is amazing. Okay, so being obedient is not always easy, but when you believe in God and you read your Bible and learn what God expects of us, being obedient gets easier and easier. Even when there are times that I am not obedient, I know that God forgives me because he knows what is in my heart. If God can forgive me for my sins so easily, I can forgive others, and forgiving others is a must. When I forgive easily, I see it becomes easier for those around me to forgive easily as well. It's almost like those driver's ed videos and movies we had, you know. I'm 52. So if you're in your 40s or 50s, you probably did driver's ed in school. And they used to show those courtesy movies, remember? Where if you give driver courtesy to one driver, then they'll turn around and give courtesy to another. So if you let someone go, you know, when they're supposed to, turn into in front of you out of a driveway, and then you'll see up the road a little bit that they'll slow down and let someone else turn out. But if you're a grouch and they're trying to get out and you speed up, then you'll see when they peel off and then they're mad. And so it just continues and continues. So kindness breeds more kindness is basically what he's saying. I noticed that the act of forgiving removes the stress and anger and other negative feelings that were building up inside. Depending on the situation, it makes people laugh or cry or love deeper. Holding a grudge causes people to stay angry or behave badly, which builds up stress and enables others to see a negative side of the offender. Forgive and move on doesn't mean you have to keep the person in your life. Just get over it. I was surprised to see an example of such bad behavior caused by a grudge in the workplace. Remember the IPA that I was leaving? Well, here are the details of my exit. I was offered the job at the Motion Picture Pension and Health Plan. I was not scheduled to start work until the 3rd week of July. I was extremely excited. I talked to a friend at the IPA and told her that I was going to give a 3 weeks notice immediately. My friend said she is not going to be happy. She was the office manager, the evil twin. Oh well, I said, I was not born to make her happy. I finished the week without giving notice. I talked to Kenny on the phone that weekend and told him that I was going to give my job a 2-week notice. I had already told him that the manager was not a nice person. He asked me how I thought she would behave. I told him I thought she might say, just leave. He said, that would be good, then you can come down here. At the beginning of the next week, I drove to my job in Pacoima. It was 7:30 a.m., which was my regular start time. My manager wasn't in. My manager wasn't in when I arrived, and I wanted her to have my resignation as soon as she came in, so I placed my written 2 weeks notice on her desk. I thought 2 weeks would give them time to hire someone, and I could help train that person. Around 10 or 11, my manager called me and asked me to come upstairs to her office. I assumed she wanted to discuss my resignation. When I stepped into her office, I noticed that she was at her desk, and the benefits manager was sitting at a chair in the corner. I said, "Yes, you wanted to see me?" She asked me to close the door and have a seat. I did so. I could see her seething underneath her tight-lipped conversation. She was like this. "So, I got your resignation." Oh my goodness. Why do people get so angry? If someone's life changes or they move on, be happy for them, because then you'll get the blessings. You'll get a new person hired and things will flow. But if you're so evil and tight-lipped and mad, oh my goodness, it was hilarious. So, she didn't waste any time. "We received your resignation. You don't need to stay. You can leave right now." I was surprised, but I never let them see me sweat. I smiled at her, which unnerved her. I said, "So, when do I get my last check?" I was already thinking about going down to Oceanside, if Kenny was serious. The benefits manager said, "Here it is," as he handed it to me. He said, "It includes your unused vacation time, and you are paid through the last day you intended to stay. You indicated in your resignation." So that was awesome. They paid me because I said I was going to leave in 2 weeks. They paid me through that 2 weeks, including unused vacation. Wow. I chuckled and said, "Great, thanks." In another attempt to hurt me or steal my joy, she said, "You can go down and pack your things, then go." Such ugly behavior in a professional environment is unbecoming of a manager. I stood up and smiled as big as my mouth and teeth could manage. Then I said, "Wow, I don't have to stay all day? Great, thanks." I turned and said goodbye over my shoulder and left her office. On my way down the stairs, I recalled the biblical saying, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." Don't worry, God, I am not mad at her. An angry person has a lot more going on inside of them than anyone knows. I went downstairs and walked the long way to my desk so that I could talk to my friends and let her know I was let go early. She said, "I told you she wasn't going to like it." I said, "Oh well." She cut her nose to spite her face, and I get a paid vacation. Who is going to do the work and train someone when the IPA is already understaffed? She should have made me work up till the last day. Truth be told, I intended on going from the Pacoima IPA on Friday and starting the MPHP job on the following Monday. I was trying to avoid impacting the IPA by just quitting on the spot. The evil twin did not realize that it would have hurt me more to stay the 2 weeks than go straight to my new job, which was not giving me a vacation for 1 full year. Now I had 2 weeks paid vacation. Woohoo! As Mama Ethel used to say to me, God doesn't like ugly. Ugly behavior, that was. I packed up all of my personal items while under the watchful eyes of the benefits manager. Believe me, there was nothing here worth taking. I am only getting my belongings. He was a little nicer than the evil twin when he said, "I don't think you'll be taking anything that belongs to the company. It's just a company policy to wait and walk you out." By now the word had gotten out, and my fellow co-workers were walking by, saying goodbye or giving me their phone numbers written on scraps of paper. I finished putting the last of my things into my box and walked out to my Mercury Lynx. I smiled all the way home. Stones of relief, enlightenment, understanding, and joy were placed on my path as I moved on to a new employer. I couldn't wait to call Kenny. I told him about the early dismissal from the IPA, and he wisely asked me, "So how do you feel about that?" I am so happy. It was a relief, and I cannot believe it. Now I have 2 weeks paid vacation before I start my new job. I have my surgery for the removal of a lump on my rib, but that's outpatient and it shouldn't be a big deal, I told him. I remembered him suggesting that I come down and visit but I wanted him to say it. I promised my mom she could have my Lynx back and I would get a different vehicle. So I have to get my car to my mom and go buy a used car. My sister could stay here a couple of days by herself. Sabbath is a pretty trustworthy teenager. Wow, now you can come, now you can come down here for a week or two after you take care of things up there, Kenny said as though he was reading my mind. I have to work nights, but we can hang out in the daytime. I have a basketball game in Yuma, Arizona if you want to come. Of course I want to come cheer you on. Don't forget to let Smiley know that I'm coming down. I reminded him so that I wouldn't have to cause a problem between roommates. Smiley is rarely home. He is either at work or at a girlfriend's house, but I will tell him. We hung up and I got busy. I called the doctor's office to verify my outpatient procedure did not require me to be confined to bed. Nope, the nurse said I would be up and about after I got out of recovery. I called my mom to see if she could come out to the valley to get the car. Yep, she was grateful to have the Lynx back and said she would gladly ride the bus or Metrolink to come to meet me. I told her that Sabbath would be going down to, I told Sabbath that I would be going down to Oceanside for a few days and asked her if she felt that she could be responsible to stay at home alone a few days, and she said of course. She was a teenager, so even if she was going to disobey me, did I really think I would get a truthful answer? Yes, I did. I drove over to the auto mall on Van Nuys and found a Hyundai Sonata that I liked and could afford. I told them I would be back to pick it up. When my mom arrived, she dropped me off at the Hyundai dealership and headed back to Riverside. I was so excited to have so many interesting new changes in my life. Some people fear change, but I embrace it, thrive on it, and appreciate it. Before I knew it, I was down in Oceanside, and Kenny and I were enjoying each other's company. I was excited to go watch him play basketball. I knew he was on the Camp Pendleton base team, so he had to be pretty good. My new car could seat 4 people, so Smiley drove with us to Yuma. I had never been to Yuma, Arizona. Man, oh man, was it hot. Like 100 degrees hot. We arrived within an hour or so to spare. Kenny introduced me to some of the guys on his team and his coach, Coach Crawford. Coach Crawford was a tall, slender gentleman with a great smile, but a confidence that showed in the way he carried himself. He reminded me of my Myron. I would take a guess that he played basketball in his younger days. The players listened when he spoke. He told them to suit up and get on the court for some warm-up drills prior to playing, and everyone obeyed, even my Kenny. I sat in the stands behind the Camp Pendleton team bench. I looked around and there were no other spectators near me, so I assumed no other Camp P fans had made the 3-hour journey to Yuma. No worries. Kenny would be surprised to see that my competitive nature and sports enthusiastic personality would be louder and more encouraging than the 50-plus fans on the Yuma team side. When the game got underway, I was so excited to watch Kenny play. He played center on the team, and at 6'5", 200 pounds, he was dominating the paint. The Yuma players tried to dribble into the paint, and he held his ground, forcing them to pass the ball out of the perimeter. If necessary, he would take the charge and win the call from the referees. He was really good. The Yuma players would try to rebound their missed shots, and Kenny effortlessly jumped up quicker and higher to recover the ball and send the ball to his point guards to push the ball towards the Camp P basket. Wow! He was a great b-ball player. I screamed, "Go, go! Yeah, shoot it! Block it! Watch your back!" and more. When a Yuma player was on the free throw line and was getting ready to shoot the free throw, I would scream, "Okay, come on, Camp P, block that, block out. Block out now, let's get that rebound." Even though I knew he would get another shot. It was a mind game, which meant he isn't going to make it, so get ready to take it. If he missed the first free throw shot, I would scream, "Okay, good job. Let's have another one just like that." Boy, did that make the shooter, the opposing team, and the fans on the opposing team side mad. It's all in the game, right? At the end of the game, Camp Pendleton won, and my voice was lost. Several of the Camp Pendleton players thanked me for cheering them on to victory. I told them they were welcome and they would see me at more games. I looked at Kenny and he was smiling at me. I think he was proud that I was with him. I was too. We were walking towards the car and he asked if I was hungry. I said, yes, I'm starving. There's a good place to eat in town. When I had to work out here in Yuma, I would go eat at this buffet all the time. Smiley's going to ride back with the team, he said as he got into the driver's side of the Hyundai. We didn't find the buffet he liked, but we did eat in town. We put gas in the Sonata and headed back to Oceanside. We talked and learned more about each other on our ride back. He said his mom lived in Indiana, which was where he grew up. His sister's name was Kim, and she had 5 children. His father was remarried and also lived in Indiana. All of his grandparents lived in Indiana. I told him the only thing I knew about Indiana was that Michael Jackson lived there when he was a boy. He told me he had married his high school sweetheart and they had 2 children, Camille and Terrence. He said he had been divorced a long time, but he saw his children when he went back home to Indiana. I told him I looked forward to meeting them. I gave him my life story. I told him I was born in Merced, California. The frown on his face was a sign that he had no idea where in California Merced was located. I told him it was near Fresno, and he said he knew where Fresno was. I had told him previously that my mom was in Riverside, but he didn't know that she had just moved down from Beaverton, Oregon. He had met my sister Sabbath, and I told him I had 2 older brothers as well. My oldest brother was Wesley, who was living somewhere on the streets of Oakland, California, due to drug use. My brother Gilbert was 5 years older than I was and lived between San Jose and Oakland. He was married and had 2 children, my nephew Gilbert II and my niece Sarah. I saw them all rarely because I didn't go back and forth to the Bay Area as much as I used to before I graduated from college. I told him that we had a family reunion every year on Labor Day weekend in Merced, ever since I was 15 years old. It gave me a chance to see the other 200 plus family members at least once every 2 years or so. I told him I wasn't sure if I would be attending that year, but if so, maybe he could come with me. He said sure. We had talked so easily and about so many subjects that the ride back to Oceanside seemed faster than the ride to Yuma. I was glad I didn't have to rush back to North Hollywood. We got back to his apartment and watched television. We went to the movies, ate out, and cooked over the next few days. I knew I could not leave my sister at my apartment the whole week without going home. I told Kenny I would go home for a couple of days and come back down on Friday. He said that was good because he had a basketball tournament in Victorville on Saturday and he wanted me to go with him. I was excited to be his traveling cheerleader. I kissed him goodbye and got in the Hyundai to head home. The air conditioner in the Hyundai was not working very well, so I took it to the dealer when I got back to the valley. I rode the bus to my apartment since they said it would be a day to fix it. Sabbath was fine. She looked happy. I guess it was good that I took a break and gave her a break. We talked about Kenny a little bit, but she was my little sister, and I could not get into details. I told her that the car was not working great, so I would see if they could fix it. I called my mom to let her know that I was home, and she was happy the Lynx was a big help. She didn't have to wait for the bus in the heat of Riverside, but if I needed it back, she said she would understand. I told her I didn't want it back. I gave her some details of the romance with Kenny. She said, I told you he was a good man. The Marines tell you they are the few and the proud. I told her. She made me laugh. I love her and hung up the phone. Later that day, the dealership service department called me and said the Hyundai repairs would take several days because they had to order parts. I called Kenny and told him that I would not be able to drive down on Friday. He said, no problem, the tournament's in Victorville, So I will drive up to you early on Saturday morning, and then we could drive to Victorville from there. Wow, this man was so flexible and laid back. Most guys would have been irked that things were not going as planned. Someone else would have said forget it and went by themselves. I was impressed. Okay, I'll be ready, I told him. On Saturday morning, I got up and put on my cutest casual outfit. A pair of discreet shorts and a colorful tank top was my selection. My hair was in scrunch wave, so I just put moisturizing lotion on it and very little makeup on my face. Eyeliner and lipstick were my enhancers. 2 minutes of work and then out the door. That's about it. That's all I used to always wear. Maybe now I wear a little more shadow and on occasion some blush, but usually eyeliner, lipstick, boom, done. So the lips stand out and the eyes stand out. But now I'll add a little shadow. I was ready when Kenny knocked on the door. It was around 9:30. He said it was a 2-day tournament, so we would be staying in a motel. I just needed to grab a couple of things, so I started towards my room when there was a knock on my door. Kenny had walked to the kitchen to get a glass of water. I opened my front door to see Tony Bird standing there. "Hey, Carol," he said. "Tony? What are you doing here?" He was the last person I expected to see at my door. "I just stopped by to tell you hi. I moved out here to the valley a while ago and thought you might still be staying here," he said. I knew Kenny was in the kitchen and it was rude to keep talking to another guy at the door. I told Tony to step in so that I could introduce Kenny to him. I couldn't wait to show Kenny off. "In your face, Tony Bird. Wait until you see this tall, handsome man that is in my life now." So I went into the kitchen to get Kenny. The look on his face was pure anger. "Who is that?" Kenny asked in an angry tone that I had not heard before. "An ex," I said, "the one who's a boxer. Come into the living room so I can introduce you." "I don't need to meet that guy. Why is he coming over here?" Kenny asked angrily. "I don't know," I said just as forcefully. "He said he just stopped by. I haven't seen him in months." "I will tell him to leave and don't come back. I just wanted you to meet him so that you know there is nothing going on," I said as I turned to walk away. I am sure Tony heard most of the conversation because my kitchen was 5 steps from my living room. "Tony, my man doesn't want to meet you. You need to leave and don't come back over here, please," I told him as I ushered him out the door. "Okay, yeah, take care," was all Tony had a chance to say before I pushed him out the door and shut it. Boom. Kendall didn't know he had nothing to worry about. My crazy days of hanging out late with the guys and dating whoever were over long ago. I didn't want to lose him. I walked back towards the kitchen as Kenny was coming around the corner. "I'm leaving." "You don't have to come," Kenny said. I could tell he was still upset. I had to make him understand that the guy that just left meant absolutely nothing to me. If we stopped seeing each other over that jerk, I was going to be mad. "I do want to come. I had no idea that he was coming over here. I have not seen him since last year, except on television when he got knocked out by Roy Jones Jr. in March." "Don't be angry with me. I told him not to come back here. I actually wanted you to meet him so I could rub it in his face. You are so much more of a man than he is. Your character, your looks, your height, and the way you carry yourself. I was wrong for trying to show you off. I apologize. Forgive me? Come on, let's go. You know you still want me to go." I talked fast and I stood up on my tippy toes to kiss him. He kissed me back, gave me a hug, and said, "Okay, let's go." I told Sabbath goodbye and we went downstairs to Kenny's car. His car was truly a babe back then. The off-white 300Z with T-tops was a popular sports car. He had the tops in the trunk, so we were going to ride with the wind in our hair and faces. He opened the door for me to get inside. Wow! I can't remember the last time someone opened a door for me. We drove out of my complex and headed towards our destination. Hot-ass Victorville. We were 2 blocks away from my apartment at a stoplight, and Kenny reached into the middle compartment of his car. He said, "I have something I want you to have." He handed me a gold necklace with a little ring on it that had 3 gold charms, a heart, an anchor, and a cross. "Oh, how adorable! It's beautiful," I said as I leaned over to give him a kiss before the light changed. "Thank you." I don't think I told him that it was the first piece of jewelry a man had ever given me. Yes, out of all the no-good bums and the nice guys with baggage that I dated, not one of them had ever given me anything of value. Stones of admiration, thankfulness, and love were placed on my path at that moment. We walked into Victorville. We didn't walk into Victorville. We made it to Victorville, but the directions to the recreation center where the tournament was being held were wrong, so it took us a while to find it. Kenny thought he would miss the game, but he was able to play in the 3rd and 4th quarters. His team advanced to the next round for Sunday. We left the rec center and checked into the motel. We went to dinner and hung out around the motel. Some of the guys from the team went to a nearby club, but Kenny and I decided to enjoy each other's company and just relax. On Sunday, everyone made it to the recreation center on time, and the game was tight. The referee seemed a little biased, but the Camp Pendleton team played through the adversity and won. Everyone was tired but happy. Kenny and I told everyone goodbye and headed to my apartment in Valley Village. He had to drive back to Oceanside to get ready for work the next day, but I promised to take the train down after my orientation at my new job. He was surprised that I would actually ride the train and take the bus to his apartment. I told him it wouldn't be the first time I took a train or a bus, and wouldn't be the last time. I would not start for a week so I could visit him a few more days. On Monday afternoon, I took Amtrak train down to Oceanside, did some grocery shopping, and took a bus to Kenny's apartment. It's funny, but a lot of guys don't think that you do that. You know, you're high maintenance. You can't ride a bus or a train or a subway. Give me a break. Reality. He left a key for me hidden by his door. I let myself inside and put the groceries on the counter in the kitchen and took my bag to his bedroom. I cleaned the kitchen, although it was relatively clean for a bachelor pad. I cooked some dinner and decided to straighten up Kenny's room. I was going to make up the bed and put clean sheets on it so that it would be fresh for later. When I pulled off the covers, there was a blood stain on the sheet. What the hell? My blood started to boil. He invited me over here and he has had some stank-ass female in his bed? Ooh, I was so mad. His phone was not working in his apartment for some reason, so I left the apartment and walked to the 7-Eleven across the street to use the phone. I called him at work and asked for Sergeant Evans. It was him. He said, "Hi, I interrupted him and said, 'Hello, Kenny?' But I couldn't hear him anymore. 'Kenny, can you hear me?' He said, 'Yeah, what's up?' 'Do you have some sheets? Because the ones on your bed have blood on them. You could have at least changed them. When did you have some female over? Was it recently?' I kept asking him questions, but I didn't give him a chance to answer any of them. 'I'm leaving,' I said sadly. 'Wait, what? Whoa. He was chuckling. 'I have a scab on my knee and it was bleeding. I didn't know it was on the sheets. I also didn't know that you would be changing my sheets. Yes, I do have clean ones. I'll talk to you later.' He hung up. Although he was initially chuckling, it appeared that he had gotten upset with the accusation. Who could blame him? As I walked back to the apartment, I felt miserable. I was worried that my jealous suspicion had just lost me the best man I had ever dated. I always tried to judge people on their actions and behavior, but this time I realized I judged him based on my past experiences, bringing the baggage, and jumped to conclusions. He wouldn't get off work until late, but I would make sure that I was awake to apologize. When he arrived after 1 a.m., I was awake. I apologized and he said no problem. He said, "I was actually just talking about you to one of the guys. bragging about my baby. Then you called and I said, this is her. Then you went all crazy on me. Kitty, Kitty, can you hear me? He mimicked me in a falsetto voice, trying to sound girlish. He was laughing. Phew, I was glad he wasn't angry. We made up all night. I learned so much about me and about Kenny that day. I learned that it was easy for those past issues with someone else to pop into my head and create doubt, suspicion, and distrust. You guys know I had a lot of drama back then. Matter of fact, you only know about a third of the drama because all the other dudes and creeps and idiots didn't get a chance to get written in the book because it would go on forever. So yes, baggage and baggage, but I know how women bring baggage to a relationship, so I swore I would never do that. But look how easy it can just pop in. So after this, definitely try to keep it baggage free. In order to keep a good man, I was going to have to leave the baggage at the door. I learned that Kenny called me his baby. So I was not just some chick he was dating, and he had a forgiving heart. The relationship stones of trust, caring, love, and forgiveness were some of the first stones laid on my path as it began to turn towards my happily ever after. Although, ever since that day, the phrase, Kenny, can you hear me? Or, can you hear me? Brings a smirk to his face and a slight blush of embarrassment to mine. Kendall thinks it is very funny. When it was time for me to go back to Valley Village, Kenny drove me home. We actually drove up Interstate 15 to the 215 so that I could see my mom in Riverside, and she could finally meet Kenny. We had a good visit. Mom and Kenny got along great. After about an hour or so, we headed to my house. I was excited about starting my new job next week and had a few things to do before my big day. I did my hair and my nails and ironed a week's worth of business attire. It was easier to be on time each day if my clothing was already laid out. I visited with my sister a little bit. Sabbath was at an age where music, friends, and boys were more interesting than her sister, who was 15 years older than she was. But I was interested in what she was doing and who she was hanging out with, so I paid close attention. Her friend Nikki lived up the street, and they would hang out and talk on the phone. She liked a young man that lived in our building, but I don't think she really cared whether they got together or not. She was doing pretty good in school and only had a couple of teachers that she would rather not deal with. I told her a little about Kenny and let her know I would be starting my new job, so she wished me luck. On Monday, I started at the Motion Picture Industry Pension and Health Plan. I met the other claims examiners and my manager, Vicki. Everyone was so nice and very helpful. It was a union job, so my starting salary was about $15 an hour. After a year, I would be making the same pay as everyone else, which was a little over $17 per hour. I was happy to report to my mom and Sabbath and Kenny that I loved my new job. They were each happy for me. By Saturday, I was glad I was off and that Kenny and I were going to see each other. It became a routine. I would work days and Kenny was working nights on the flight line at the Camp Pendleton. He would come up sometimes after he got off work, tired and sleepy. We were definitely in love. He met my friends and I met his. By August, we were inseparable and spending all of our free time together. I asked him if I could call him Kendall. I loved his given name, and Kenny seemed so casual for me to call such a confident, strong man. My confident and strong man. He said, sure, it's my name. I laughed and immediately started calling him Kenny. Immediately stopped calling him Kenny. His friends and fellow Marines would call him Kenny, Big E, and even Ken, which I really disliked. It reminded me of a Ken doll every time I heard it. My guy, my dream man, was much cuter than Barbie's. I went to visit him at his apartment one weekend in August, and he decided to grill steaks for dinner. Kendall actually planned and cooked the whole meal with very little help from me. Wow, I was impressed. He made steak and salad, baked potatoes on the grill, and corn on the cob. We ate until we were stuffed. We were sitting on the couch watching the X-Files when he got up for a few minutes. When he came back, he leaned over to kiss me, and something metal passed from his mouth to mine. I pulled out a diamond engagement ring from my mouth. "What is this?" I asked. "Will you marry me?" Kendall asked me. "Oh my goodness, he just proposed." Yes, I will." We kissed on it. No more metal passed between us. By now you can anticipate that the types of stones that were laid on my path. Stones of love and respect, devotion and anticipation were laid via one metal-infused kiss. That is the end of chapter 8. And these are the pictures, and it says the end of me, myself, and I, and the beginning of us. And these are pictures of my honey bunny and me. That's Kendall on the far left, me and Kendall on the far right at my apartment on my sectional. Oh, there's his Babe magnet. He's cleaning the tires and giving it a shine up. And then he and I in those photo booth pictures. And then that's me with a pair of my shorts that I had airbrushed that say Kenny's ASS. And then that's me and him. We went to his Marine Corps ball together. The first one. And yes, I did design that dress. Pretty awesome. So that's the end of chapter 8. I hope you are really enjoying it. If you're listening to this while you're driving your car, keep just listening. No peeking. You can always get home and pull it up if you wanted to see my expression when I was reading a certain part. But if you're listening to this only while you're driving or doing something you need to focus, just listen. Otherwise, hi to everybody who's watching. Thank you so much, and you'll get to chapter 9 next. Bye.